I clearly have the power to grow stronger by taking on disciples, yet during the grand ceremony I rejected 6 legendary empresses. In the broad light of day I chose 2 individuals as weak as mere fledglings instead. Everyone witnessing this assumed I had lost my mind, but they could not have known that the natural talent and cultivation foundation of those 6 female disciples were entirely unremarkable. It was only through my guidance in my past life that they were able to shed their mortal bones and transcend, eventually becoming great emperors in their own right. But just as I believed I could finally live a life of peace and tranquility, they all turned against me, conspiring to send me to my grave. Their reasoning was nothing short of preposterous. The eldest disciple believed I was still holding back my true power. She claimed I refused to impart my full knowledge, while the second disciple, a princess by birth, felt that my harsh discipline was an unforgivable humiliation. I fought with my life to slay those traitors, but I ultimately perished during the tribulation. When I opened my eyes once more, I stood stunned, staring at the familiar surroundings. Immediately after, a cold mechanical voice echoed in my mind. Host, you have not perished? You have been reborn 3,000 years into the past. Furthermore, your 6 disciples have also been reborn. These words left me in shock, but before I could respond, a voice resonated from outside the door. Elder Chen, the sect examination has concluded. The sect master has ordered me to summon you to select your disciples. I snapped back to reality. By sheer coincidence, it was on this very day in my previous life that I chose those 3 disciples, Lu Ruyan, Chu Qingmin, and Lin Xianer, from among hundreds of candidates. At that thought, I stomped my foot, my body transforming into a streak of light as I lunged toward the mountain gate. At the foot of the gate stood a crowd of youths, among whom 3 maidens of peerless beauty stood out. These 3 were none other than Lu Ruyan, Chu Qingmin, and Lin Xianer, who had also been reborn. As I appeared, the fists of all 3 tightened instantly, knuckles cracking. We were so close, they muttered. Just a moment more, and we would have slain him. Lu Ruyan stared intensely at my figure above, her expression filled with profound unwillingness. Indeed, he was clearly severely wounded. How could we have failed to kill him? Chu Qingmin's voice was equally thick with resentment. Lin Xianer let out a cold snort, overflowing with disdain. He exhausted his Dao artifact to break our formation. His meridians were shattered. He could not possibly have survived. Watching these 3 traitors, who looked as if they wished to carve me into pieces, a surge of exhilaration rose within me. Armed with the experience of my past life, I am confident I can reach the great Emperor realm once again. Conversely, these rebellious disciples, without my assistance in this life, will find the path to the great Emperor realm harder than ascending to the heavens. While I was deep in thought, Yunyan, in her capacity as the sect master of the Heaven Sword sect, stepped forward. Elders, you are now invited to step forward and select the disciples of your choosing. As soon as the words were spoken, the elders of the 7 main peaks surged forward, vying to claim the disciples with the greatest natural talent and foundation. The young disciples below were visibly stirred with excitement. Even Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin could not suppress their anticipation and followed the crowd forward. Only Lin Xianer remained standing still in her place. In her previous life, her greatest regret was taking me as her master. If she had obeyed her parents and followed the Qiyun immortal venerable to cultivate, she would not have had to turn against her own kin, and she could have ascended to the status of a great emperor long ago. Thus, in this life, she had resolved to leave the mountain and return home. She little knew that this would become the decision she would regret most deeply. As time passed, Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin grew restless watching the other disciples being selected one by one. They had no desire to be relegated to the 12 subsidiary peaks. Yet it never crossed their minds that the only reason they were able to join Shaoyun Peak in their previous life, one of the 7 main peaks, was that I chose my disciples based on fate rather than natural talent or foundation. Now that we have been reborn, I shall not accept them again. Given their mediocre innate talent, the elders of the remaining 6 main peaks would not even spare them a glance. Very quickly, the elders of the 6 main peaks finished selecting their disciples. Those who remained unchosen wore expressions of utter dejection. Why? Why did the elders of the 6 main peaks not choose us? Lu Ruyan stood there in a daze. In her past life, thanks to my dedicated guidance, within a single year, she had become the most brilliant prodigy of the Heaven Sword sect, yet now she could not even enter any of the 7 main peaks. Chu Qingmin found herself equally unable to accept this reality. Watching the state they were in, I could not help but smile. At this moment, Yunyan turned her head toward me. Elder Chen, the elders of the other 6 peaks have already accepted their disciples. Only your Shaoyun Peak has yet to take anyone in. Hurry and make your selection. Do not let the auspicious hour slip away. Upon hearing this, I hesitated for a moment before stepping forward to gaze at the crowd of disciples below. These disciples were all those whom the 6 main peaks had screened and discarded. As the disciples looked up, a glimmer of hope sparked in their eyes. Only Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin wore expressions of disdain. As my gaze swept over them, I suddenly noticed 2 frail-looking youths standing amidst the crowd. They stood there quietly, showing none of the agitation displayed by the other disciples, as if they had already accepted the reality that they would not be admitted to the 7 main peaks. I smiled and gestured toward the 2 youths. The 2 of you, step forward. The 2 youths looked at each other, suppressing their agitation as they stepped out from the crowd. Are you willing to be inducted into the sect under my Shaoyun Peak? The 2 youths were overcome with immense joy. How could there be any reason to refuse? They immediately knelt and kowtowed. Lu Ruyan and the others watched my 2 new disciples, feeling an inexplicable sense of vexation in their hearts. But they had no time to dwell on it as the elders of the 12 minor peaks had begun selecting their disciples, and very quickly they heard an elder calling their names. Lu Ruyan, Chu Qingmin, are you two willing to join my Qingming peak? Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin exchanged glances, both seeing the unwillingness in each other's eyes, yet in the current situation there were no better options. We are willing. They replied in unison, then walked toward the elder of Qingming Peak. Even if I only join a minor peak, I can still become a heaven-defying prodigy just like in my past life. In the end, I will still reach the great emperor realm. Lu Ruyan looked at me, silently clenching her fists. As the disciples were led away one by one, the recruitment ceremony gradually drew to a close. Lin Xianer looked deeply at me from below before turning and decisively heading down the mountain. In this life, I will take Xiyun Immortal Venerable as my master. According to my parents, he is the only true expert among them. Thinking of her parents at home, a sudden wave of longing rose in her heart, and her footsteps down the mountain unconsciously quickened. At the same time, I brought my two new disciples back to Xiaoyun Peak. System, why is there no reward for taking on disciples in this life? Host, this system has reached its maximum level. Therefore, you are no longer required to work for me. Is that understood? Do you mean that because you have reached maximum level, no matter how many more disciples I take in or how I teach them, there will be no more rewards? However, the rewards you obtained from your past life still remain, as due to the rebirth, they are currently stored within the system space, which the host may retrieve at any time. Unlike the other peaks, Little Cloud was devoid the bustling crowds and clamor of disciples. With only the three of us master and disciples, atmosphere was undeniably serene. I promptly arranged their living quarters and in the process learned their names, Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan. Both hailed from destitute mountain villages. Their backgrounds were humble and they had often struggled to afford a single meal. I provided them with cultivation resources in accordance with the standards of the 7 main peaks. While I had no intention of exhausting my personal reserves to mentor them in this life, these two were at least not ungrateful wretches like the others. With this thought, I withdrew 2 divine origin elixirs from my system space to compensate for their lack of foundation. This elixir could cleanse the marrow and refine the meridians. Even those with ordinary talent would be transformed into geniuses upon consuming it. In my past life, those rebellious disciples of mine only became the most brilliant luminaries of the Heavenly Sword sect because I had bestowed these divine origin elixirs upon them. Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan accepted the cultivation manuals and elixirs as if they were priceless treasures, then withdrew to their chambers. I too returned to my own room. At the same time, in another part of the sect, Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin were brought to the Clear Light Peak by their new master. Their new master, Qi Wuji, was a venerable elder with hair as white as frost. No sooner had they arrived than Qi Wuji handed them over to Yang Yuyan, the head senior sister of Clear Light Peak. Little did they know, the moment the elder departed, Yang Yuyan immediately began to flaunt her authority as the head senior sister. From today onwards, you are disciples of Clear Light Peak. I am your head senior sister, Yang Yuyan. Now come with me to collect your identification jade tokens and uniforms. Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin were already well accustomed to such procedures, but upon seeing that their cultivation resources consisted of merely 5 low-grade spirit stones, they could not help but stand their ground and confront Yang Yuyan. Senior Sister Yang, why are we only allocated 5 low-grade spirit stones and 2 chi-gathering elixirs? How could such meager resources possibly be sufficient for our cultivation? In their past lives, when they first entered Little Cloud Peak, they were granted 10 mid-grade spirit stones and 5 chi-gathering elixirs every month, in addition to 3 origin-nourishing elixirs, and even then they had considered it insufficient. Yang Yuyan narrowed her eyes at them in clear annoyance. Every disciple on the 12 subsidiary peaks receives the same amount. If you find it lacking, why did you not seek out the 7 main peaks? Why did you come to our Clear Light Peak? Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin were rendered speechless by the rebuke, left with no choice but to suppress their indignation. They followed Yang Yuyan to the residential area for disciples. The 2 of you will reside here from now on. Yang Yuyan pointed toward 2 dilapidated wooden huts as she spoke. Lu Ruyan stared at the structures, her eyes widening in disbelief. Could this truly be the case? Is this supposed to be a place fit for human habitation? Senior sister, this place is far too small and decrepit. Chu Qingmin pushed open the door to one of the huts and was immediately assaulted by the sharp stench of mold and decay. Suppressing her revulsion, she peered inside, only to find the space incredibly cramped, containing nothing but a single wooden bed. There was no room left for anything else. Chu Qingmin glared at Yang Yuyan in indignation, for after all, she was the princess of a sovereign nation. Yang Yuyan's expression turned cold as she snapped, on Qingming Peak, this is all the accommodation we have, take it or leave it. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin standing there, consumed by resentment. Senior sister, this hut is not even as good as an outhouse back at Xiaoyan Peak. How are we supposed to live here? Junior sister, let it go. We only have ourselves to blame for joining a secondary peak instead of the main one. As dusk fell after much cleaning, the dilapidated wooden hut was finally habitable. Exhausted, the 2 women decided against cultivating immediately and chose to retire for the night. At the same time, on Xiaoyan Peak, I remained unaware of the wretched conditions my 2 defiant disciples were enduring. I was currently sitting cross-legged on my bed, preparing to cultivate. System, give me 10 spirit pills. No sooner had the words left my lips than 10 white medicinal pills materialized in my hand. I swallowed them all at once. A wave of warmth surged through my body, and I promptly channeled my cultivation technique to begin. With the experience of my past life, my progress was as if aided by the divine. 7 hours later, I opened my eyes, stunned. Have I truly broken through to the Yuan Dan realm? Feeling the Yuan Dan newly formed within my body, I could not help but smile. Aside from the sect master and the grand elders, I was now the strongest individual in the heavenly sword sect, yet I remained humble and stilled my heart to continue my cultivation. Meanwhile, in a small town 10 miles away from the heavenly sword sect, realizing the journey home was still long, Lin Xuaner chose to take temporary shelter in the town. She was currently sitting cross-legged in an inn, and drawing upon the experience of her past life, it took her only 2 hours to successfully guide Qi into her body, stepping into the Qi condensation realm. Just as she intended to press her advantage and break through to the second level of the Qi condensation realm, she suddenly discovered that her rate of cultivation was agonizingly slow, dozens of times slower than in her previous life. Lin Xianer furrowed her brows slightly. Could it be that the spiritual energy here is too thin, causing her cultivation to progress so slowly? No, that cannot be it. This place is not far from the heavenly sword sect, and the spiritual energy is by no means scarce. Could it be that her natural aptitude is simply too poor? She quickly realized the root of the problem. In her past life, the moment she was accepted into his tutelage, he had gifted her a divine origin pill. She had not expected such a modest pill to possess such miraculous effects. In her previous life, she had paid little attention to it, dismissing it as a common medicinal pill. Lin Xianer frowned deeply. Back then, she knew nothing of cultivation and accepted every pill he offered without question. At the time, she believed herself to be a peerless genius, but now she realized with a start that she was no prodigy at all. Without the divine origin pill, she was not even equal to a common disciple of the 12 outer pavilions. Once she returned home and apprenticed under the Red Cloud Immortal Venerable, he would surely grant her a marrow-cleansing pill to purge her impurities and refine her mortal constitution. After all, it was merely a divine origin pill. If such a mortal could possess it, then others surely could as well. Thinking this, she calmed her mind and continued her cultivation. However, she had barely resumed her practice when a sharp stabbing pain pierced her heart. She let out a muffled groan and instantly opened her eyes. This is the heart oath goo. Memories once sealed away came flooding back. Lin Xianer suddenly recalled that upon entering the heavenly sword sect in her previous life, she had been afflicted with the heart oath goo. She did not know who had planted this goo poison within her. It had plagued her since the age of 10, erupting every 3 days, each time feeling as if thousands of venomous insects were gnawing at her heart. In her past life, she had gritted her teeth and endured this agony for 7 years, only finding relief once she became his disciple. Within the room, Lin Xianer shrieked in agony, her cries tinged with a desperate madness. At that very moment, an angry voice of a man erupted from the neighboring room. What is all that noise? Can you not sleep in the middle of the night? Clearly her screams had disturbed the other guests, but at this moment Lin Xianer had no mind to care about others. The excruciating pain. It was not until a moment later that the pain finally began to fade. It seems I must return home immediately and beseech Xiyun Xianzun to take me as his disciple. If Chen Yang was able to force the heart oath goo out of his body, then surely he can also purge this type of goo poison from mine. With that thought, she succumbed to exhaustion and drifted into a deep sleep. The following morning, as the first light of dawn broke, Lin Xianer urged her horse to depart from the inn. At the same moment, in the residence at Shaoyun Peak, I slowly opened my eyes, unexpectedly realizing that after a single night, I had cultivated to the late stage of the Yuan Dan realm, just one step away from breaking through to the Yuan Ying realm. If the other elders in the sect were to discover this, their jaws would surely hit the floor. Just as I was feeling jubilant, a respectful voice suddenly echoed from outside the door. Master, are you awake? It was the voice of my new disciple, Li Qingyun. What is the matter? Master, we have prepared breakfast for you. Come in. The door creaked open slowly. Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan entered, carrying the morning meal. Looking at the bowls of rice in their hands, I let out a faint sigh. I cannot even recall how long it has been since I last touched food. Cultivators who reach the Linghai realm achieve anidia, and essentially no longer require sustenance to maintain their physical bodies. From now on, the two of you need not prepare a portion for me. Once one reaches my realm of cultivation, eating and drinking are no longer necessary. By the way, have you consumed the Shenyuan elixirs I gave you? Both of them nodded in unison. And have you begun your cultivation? Upon hearing this question, Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan exchanged glances, their expressions tinged with embarrassment. Master, we consumed the elixirs last night and immediately began practicing, but we are too dim-witted. We still cannot guide the qi into our bodies. Unexpectedly, I merely smiled indifferently. Do not be impatient. Since you have already consumed the Shenyuan elixirs, I believe that it will not be long before you can channel qi into your bodies and step into the Ningqi realm. After all, the Shenyuan elixir provided is a divine pill produced by the system. In this world, it is one of a kind. Li Qing and Zhao Chuan are destined to become the chosen prodigies of the Tianjin sect. Now that I think of it, those other three must have begun their cultivation as well. With the experience from their past lives, it would be effortless for them to enter the qi condensation realm. Yet, they would soon discover that without the divine origin pill to cleanse their marrow and refine their meridians, their cultivation speed would be agonizingly slow. Reality proved my hypothesis correct. After 2 hours of cultivation, Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin of Qingming Peak had successfully guided spiritual energy into their bodies. Initially, they were overjoyed. After all, this speed had broken records across the southern wilderness, but they were soon dealt a harsh reality check. Once they successfully guided the chi, their progress slowed to a crawl. How could this be? Lu Ruan ceased her cultivation, her expression filled with doubt and bewilderment. At that moment, Chu Qingmin pushed open the door and entered. Senior sister, why is our cultivation speed not even a fraction of what it was in our previous lives? Junior sister, do not panic. Let me think. Lu Ruyan frowned in deep thought, and after a moment she suddenly looked up. Junior sister, I understand. Now, the divine origin pill. Chu Qingmin stood stunned. In our past lives, I had provided them with so many medicinal pills that she no longer remembered the true purpose of the divine origin pill. Seeing this, Lu Ruyan hurriedly explained. A while later, Chu Qingmin finally realized the truth. Then, senior sister, what should we do now? Without this divine origin pill, we cannot cleanse our marrow. Are we destined to remain this slow in our cultivation forever? Junior sister, do not worry. Let us go and ask our master. Perhaps he also possesses the divine origin pill. That is right. As an elder of the Heavenly Sword Sect, if Chen Yang could obtain it, our master must surely have it as well. Immediately, the two women stepped out of the wooden house, only to encounter the head senior sister of Qingming Peak, Yang Yuyan, along the way. Senior sister Yang, do you know where master is? Master descended the mountain yesterday and has yet to return. Why are you two looking for him? Yang Yuan furrowed her brows slightly. She held no favorable impression of these two. Senior sister, do you know if master possesses the divine origin pill? Lu Rian looked at Yang Yuan, her nerves strained. The divine origin pill? Yang Yuan was initially taken aback, followed by a look of confusion. What kind of item is that? She had cultivated under master for over a decade and had never heard of such an elixir. Seeing the blank expression on Yang Yuan's face, Chu Qingmin immediately grew anxious. Senior sister Yang, this is the kind of pill that can cleanse the marrow and refine the bones, allowing one to be reborn. Once consumed, even those with mediocre aptitude can instantly rise to become a chosen child of heaven. Have you truly never heard of it? Lu Ruin was equally tense. They both now fully understood the immense value of the divine origin pill. These words caused Yang Yuyan's eyes to widen in disbelief. Could such a medicinal pill actually exist in this world? However, her look of astonishment sent a chill down the spines of the other two. Sensing the dejected state of the two girls, Yang Yuyan finally gathered her thoughts. Are you two seeking out master because you want this so-called divine origin pill? Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin nodded slightly. Seeing this, Yang Yuyan could not help but chuckle, a flicker of disdain appearing in her eyes. According to your claims, this divine origin pill possesses the miraculous power to turn someone into a genius. Setting aside whether master even possesses such a pill, even if he did, on what ground should he grant it to the likes of you? There are hundreds of disciples on Qingming Peak. Is your talent and aptitude truly that exceptional? Is your background that profound? Or perhaps your relationship with master is exceptionally close? Why exactly should master give it to you? This barrage of questions left the two girls seething with suppressed rage, yet they found themselves unable to formulate a rebuttal. Yang Yuyan gave a light laugh, brushed past them, and walked away. This is infuriating. Senior sister, this Yang Yuyan is absolutely detestable. We only wanted to ask about the divine origin pill. By what right does she have to humiliate us like this? Chu Qingmin stamped her feet in frustration, while Lu Ruyan glared in the direction where Yang Yuyan had vanished. This Yang Yuyan has gone too far. She is merely the senior disciple of Qingming Peak, nothing more. A person like her wasn't even fit to carry my shoes in my past life. Wait until my cultivation level rises. Sooner or later, I will repay this humiliation. Exactly, we will settle this debt with her eventually. Chu Qingmin gritted her teeth, etching the grudge deep into her heart. That is enough for now. The most pressing matter is obtaining the divine origin pill. Lu Ruyan withdrew. Even if master does not possess one, he surely must know where to find a divine origin pill. Hearing this, Chuthan Man felt significantly more at ease. The two did not have to wait long. Their master Tavo Kook returned to Thine Peak by midday. What business do you two have with me? Tavo Kook looked at the two women with a cold, indifferent expression. He still held some impression of these two female disciples with their exceptional beauty. Just as Chuthan Man was about to open her mouth to request the divine origin pill, Liu Huyen tugged hard on her sleeve. Master, have you ever heard of the divine origin pill? The divine origin pill? Tavo Cook furrowed his brow slightly. After a moment he shook his head, saying, I have never heard of such an elixir. Upon hearing this, Liu Nuyen and Chutan Man were struck as if by lightning. Seeing their bewildered expressions, Tavo Cook became intrigued. What kind of elixir is this divine origin pill, after all? And what miraculous properties does it possess? Chuthan Man was plunged into utter disappointment. How could she have the presence of mind to answer his questions? Seeing this, Liu Nuyen had no choice but to respond, Master, we only heard of this divine origin pill from rumors at the foot of the mountain. It is said that the divine origin pill can cleanse the marrow and refine the bones, allowing one to undergo a complete transformation, so we came to inquire about it. Hahaha, then you two have undoubtedly been deceived. How could such an elixir exist in this world? If something could truly change one's constitution to that degree, heaven only knows how many prodigies would fill the world. Liu Nuyen and Chuthan Man's expressions darkened, those words echoing incessantly in their minds. I must head to Tuvan Peak in a moment. Is there anything else you need? If not, then please proceed, Master. I must head to Tuvan Peak in a moment. Is there anything else you need? No, there is nothing else. Master, hearing the words Tu Van Peek, the two women could not help but think of me. They desperately wanted to tell Tevo Kook that such an elixir did indeed exist in this world, but those words were forced back into their hearts. By now both of them understood clearly, in this entire world I am the only one who possesses the divine origin pill. After Tevo Kook departed, Chutan Man looked up at Liu Nuyen, asking, "Senior sister, without the divine origin pill, what are we to do?" Liu Nuyen opened her mouth, but she could not utter a single word. At the same time, at Tu Van Peek, I was sitting cross-legged on a large boulder, cultivating in silence. Just then an aged voice echoed from afar. "Elder Tran, so you were here. I have been looking everywhere for you." I opened my eyes and looked out, seeing in the distance amidst the sea of clouds, an elder leading a female disciple toward me on a flying sword. "So, it is Elder Chi? What brings you to pay a visit to my humble Xiaoyun Peak today? And to my residence at that?" The one who had arrived was none other than the elder of Qingming Peak, Chi Wuji. The female disciple behind him was the head senior sister of Qingming Peak, Yang Yuyan. In my past life, my relationship with Chi Wuji was quite cordial. Among all the elders of the Heavenly Sword sect, Chi Wuji was considered one of the few who were truly close to me. Do not even mention it, my old wounds have flared up once again today. Yesterday, I descended the mountain to procure medicinal herbs, traveling through a dozen cities, yet I still returned empty-handed. It is truly a wretched situation. Sai, that is why I came to ask you, do you still have any of the heart-cleansing pills you gave me last time? If you do, please spare me one. I am willing to offer 50 high-grade spirit stones in exchange. A heart-cleansing pill, you say? I happen to have one. At this moment, my system storage space is filled with nearly every type of medicinal pill imaginable. These were all rewards I had accumulated from my past life. Is that true? That is wonderful news. Chi Wuji's weathered face could not hide his sudden expression of relief and joy. Yuyan, hurry and take out the spirit stones for Elder Chen. Young Yuyan nodded immediately, then produced a pouch of high-grade spirit stones she had prepared in advance. Watching their hurried and anxious demeanor, I could only offer a wry smile as I casually tossed a small medicine vial to Chi Wuji. "Very well, I shall not trouble you any further. I will take my leave now." Having said that, he turned to depart, but at that exact moment I suddenly called out to stop him. "Wait." Chi Wuji turned his head back, his expression etched with confusion. Is there something the matter?" "It is nothing of consequence. I merely wish to ask you something. Didn't you just accept a new batch of disciples yesterday? Are there not two individuals named Lu Ruyan and Shu Qing? How are those two disciples of yours at Qingming Peak faring? Have they settled in well?" "It is not that I concern myself with those two ingrates. I simply wish to hear how miserable their lives have become." Lu Ruyan, Chu Qingmin, and Shi Wuji were momentarily stunned before recalling the specific details regarding these two. Were these not the two female disciples who had just inquired about the divine origin pill? This is strange. Chen Yang has no prior acquaintance with them, so why is he so interested in their affairs? Though puzzled, Chi Wuji did not pry further, merely replying whether they have settled in at Qingming Peak or not, "I truly cannot say. During yesterday's disciple recruitment, I entrusted all arrangements to Yuyan." Upon hearing this, Yang Yuyan stepped forward and spoke respectfully. "Elder Chen, regarding the two you mentioned, I have a deep impression of them. Out of all the disciples recruited into Qingming Peak yesterday, those two were the most troublesome. They possess no self-awareness of their own standing, clearly lacking in both talent and foundation, yet they are incredibly picky and demanding. It is truly laughable." As she spoke, she could not suppress the look of disdain on her face. "What? Do these two actually dare to look down upon our Qingming Peak?" Hearing his disciple's report, Chi Wuji expressed a hint of astonishment. As for me, hearing the state of these two traitors, I felt an immense sense of satisfaction. At this moment, Yang Yuyan remembered something and added, "That is right. This morning, they even approached me to inquire about something called the divine origin pill. They claimed this elixir could cleanse the marrow, reshape the physical body, and allow one to ascend to the status of a heaven-sent prodigy in a single step. They have only just begun their path of cultivation, yet they are already dreaming of instantaneous greatness. Truly, they are daydreaming in broad daylight." Yang Yuyan's tone was brimming with mockery. Upon hearing this, Chi Wuji suddenly displayed a look of realization, muttering, "No wonder they came to me earlier to ask about the divine origin pill. So they intend to use that medicinal pill to become heaven-sent prodigies in one leap." In an instant, his impression of these two disciples plummeted to the absolute nadir. I was momentarily taken aback. Then a cold smirk tugged at the corner of my mouth. These two rebellious disciples have indeed realized the truth. After the master and disciple, Chi Wuji departed, a memory of another rebellious disciple suddenly surfaced in my mind. Yet, coming to think of it, that girl, Lin Xianer, should be arriving home tonight. In her past life, the reason she turned against her own family was all because she refused to listen to their insistence that she apprentice under the Qiyun Immortal Venerable, never realizing that he was, in truth, a practitioner of the demonic path. The demonic heart-severing curse within her was also planted by the Qiyun Immortal Venerable himself. Furthermore, Lin Xianer's parents, blinded by the wealth offered by the Qiyun Immortal Venerable, were so consumed by greed that they forced her to become his disciple. Lin Xianer only knew that her family had perished at the hands of the demon sect, never suspecting that the true culprit was the very man she had so desperately yearned to serve as her master. The truth unfolded exactly as I had anticipated. At this moment, Lin Xianer had returned to a small village. She gazed at the humble village before her, unable to hold back the tears welling in her eyes. 3,000 years had passed. She had finally returned to this familiar place. Thinking of her parents and brother at home, she felt a sudden ache in her nose. In her previous life, the death of her loved ones was a regret that would haunt her forever. She took a deep breath, composed her emotions, and stepped into the village. Father, mother, I have returned. Lin Shanner stood before the courtyard and called out, her voice trembling with emotion. Unexpectedly, no sooner had her words faded than hurried footsteps echoed from within the house. Moments later, a middle-aged couple rushed out. This couple was none other than Lin Shanner's parents, Lin Qingshan and Zhang Xiulian. Daughter, you have finally returned? Zhang Xiulian was both joyous and startled, hurriedly grasping her hands as if afraid she might vanish. With red-rimmed eyes, Lin Shanner replied, Mother, I am back. This time I will not leave. I will be obedient and listen to you. I will become a disciple of the Qiyun Immortal Venerable. Hearing her words, the eyes of Lin Qingshan and Zhang Xiulian lit up, their lips curling into uncontrollable smiles. This is wonderful. Now that our daughter has returned, we only need to deliver her to the Qiyun Immortal Venerable, and he will no longer harass us. We will not have to die. Daughter, you have just arrived. Why don't you go inside and wash your face first? Lin Qingshan said to Lin Shanner, struggling to suppress his agitation. Lin Shanner wiped away her tears and stepped into the courtyard. Xiulian, this is perfect. That stubborn girl has finally returned. This time we will not have to face death. Watching their daughter enter the house, Lin Qingshan could not restrain his laughter. How could it be otherwise? I truly thought our entire family was doomed. I never expected this rebellious child to crawl back here. Now this is fortunate. She will die in our stead, and we shall continue to live. Father, mother, why are you two standing here? At this moment, a youth dressed in tattered linen clothes approached from a distance. Tianyu, you have returned? Son, I have joyous news. Your sister has returned, and we no longer have to die. Is that true? She has truly returned. This youth is their son, Lin Tianyu. Lin Tianyu's eyes widened in shock, followed by a fit of frenzied joy. Of course it is true. Your sister is inside the house right now. Would I lie to you? But mother, I heard that the daughter of Uncle Wang next door was sent to become an apprentice of Immortal Master Qiyun and suffered a miserable death. Are we truly going to send my sister to study under Immortal Master Qiyun? Oh, stop your rambling, boy. It is better for her to die than for our entire family to perish together. Zhang Xiulian shot him a cold glare. Hearing this, Lin Tianyu gritted his teeth and nodded firmly. Early the next morning, Lin Shanner was taken away from the village by her family. After crossing several mountain ranges, they finally arrived at the legendary Qiyun Temple. Here, Lin Shanner finally met the rumored Immortal Master Qiyun. You are Lin Shanner. Immortal Master Qiyun gazed at her, his eyes flashing with golden light, as if he were observing a precious treasure. Well? From this day forward, you shall be a disciple of this seat, Immortal Master Qiyun. Thank you, Master. Lin Shanner knelt on the ground and nodded solemnly. Daughter, stay here and cultivate alongside Immortal Master Qiyun. We shall return home first. Seeing that their daughter had successfully become a disciple, Zhang Xiulian and the others could not wait to leave. Father, mother, brother, please take care on your journey. I will return to visit you all often in the future. Lin Shanner turned back to look at her family with a look of lingering attachment. Yes, come back to visit when you have the time. Truong Tulian and the other two offered her perfunctory words, though inside, they only wished to laugh and return home, as if they would ever make it back. Before long, they would meet their demise without even knowing how it happened. At this moment, they only cared about returning to spend the wealth that Chivan Xianxun had previously given them. They intended to enter the city, purchase property, and live the lives of the wealthy. After her relatives departed, Lin Shanner felt a sense of emptiness in her heart. Yet, reflecting on the fact that Lin Jushan was not far from home, she felt a sense of peace. Disciple, I shall arrange for you to stay in the temple for now. We shall begin your cultivation tomorrow. This was the voice of Chivan Xianxun, pulling her thoughts back to reality. Lin Shanner considered that she had yet to undergo the cleansing of her marrow and meridians, and the goo insect within her body had yet to be purged. A sense of urgency began to stir within her. Master, the disciple is afflicted by the heart oath goo. This poison flares up every 3 days, and each time the pain is bone-chilling. I implore you, Master, please help me purge this poison from my body. In her previous life, the moment she took me as her master, I had immediately helped her purge the goo insect. What I could accomplish, Chivan Jiansun could certainly achieve as well. Thinking that she was on the verge of being freed from the heart oath goo, she could not help but feel a surge of anticipation. However, upon hearing her words, Chivan Jiansun furrowed his brows slightly. Unexpected indeed, you have actually been struck by a heart goo. What a pity. Lin Schwanner's heart skipped a beat, and an ominous premonition immediately surfaced. What is wrong, Master? Chivan Jiansun sighed. Disciple, your master is currently suffering from injuries. My cultivation has not yet recovered, so I am temporarily unable to purge the goo insect from your body. Lin Schwanner's expression betrayed clear disbelief. Master, is there truly no other way? At this moment, she could not help but think, if the one she had taken as her master today were Chen Yang, perhaps the goo insect would have already been purged by now. But at that very moment, Chivan Jiansun suddenly shifted his tone. Actually, it is not entirely impossible. As he spoke, he produced a cultivation manual, stating that simply by practicing this technique, she could soothe the poisonous goo. This manual consists of 7 levels in total, Once you reach the 4th level, you will be— Lin Xuani hurriedly took the manual, bowing her head to read the 5 large characters inscribed on the cover, Blood Demon Essence Devouring Technique. Seeing this, the smile on her face faltered for a moment. Master, this does not appear to be a righteous cultivation technique. Immortal Qian shook his head. This technique can suppress the ancient poison within your body. Although it is not a path of the orthodox sects, training in it will cause no harm to your physical form. Furthermore, this is a formidable art. Rest assured, your master is a hermit of great renown. I would never deceive you. Hearing this, Lin Xuani's concerns vanished. Ah, that is right, master. Do you possess a divine origin pill? What is that? A look of confusion appeared on Immortal Qian's face. Seeing this, Lin Xuani's heart skipped a beat. How could this be? Chen Yang possesses a divine origin pill. Surely her new master, a true hermit of the world, must have one as well? Disciple, where did you hear of this divine origin pill? What kind of medicinal elixir is it exactly? Lin Xuani, having lost interest in explaining, answered perfunctorily. Oh master, this divine origin pill has the power to cleanse the marrow and refine the bones, allowing one to undergo a complete rebirth, stepping into the ranks of the heaven-defying prodigies in a single bound. Hearing this, Immortal Qian fell into deep thought. So that is it, he mused. Is it not merely a marrow-cleansing and spirit-refining pill? I have plenty of them, he said, pulling a pouch of pills from his storage ring. You need only consume these, and within 2 months, you will reach the 4th stage of the Blood Demon Essence Devouring Technique. Lin Xuani accepted the pills as if she had struck gold. The pouch must have contained hundreds of them. Taking this old man as her master was indeed the right choice. Once Lin Xuani had departed, the benevolent expression on Immortal Qian's face immediately shifted into a cold sneer. What a fool. It seems that within 2 months I shall have gained another puppet. The reason he traveled everywhere to take on disciples was to refine them all into puppets. In the eyes of his disciples, he was a hermit of great renown, but in truth, his real identity was that of a poison cultivator. To refine a sufficient number of puppets, 6 years ago, while passing through this region, he had planted the essence-devouring goo into them. The young girls within a 10-mile radius, along with the blood demon essence-devouring technique he gave to Lin Xuani, were all components of a wicked, heretical path. The practitioner's combat strength would soar, but the price to pay would be immense. Once refined, they would age rapidly, their skin would fester, and eventually they would become monsters, neither human nor ghost. As for the pile of pills given to Lin Xuani, they were certainly not any kind of marrow-cleansing or spirit-refining elixir. This pill is in truth a specialized nutrient prepared for the parasitic heartworm. Once consumed, the parasitic heartworm within the body will be nourished, and furthermore it will propagate and multiply with startling speed. Yet Lin Xuani remains entirely unaware. At this moment, she is eager to cultivate the blood demon parasitic technique in her quarters. In the blink of an eye, a month has passed. During this time, I have been cultivating at Shaoxun Peak every single day. Thanks to the support of vast resources, I can faintly sense that I am on the verge of a breakthrough. Beyond my own rapid cultivation progress over this past month, my 2 newly accepted disciples have revealed astonishing talent. In just 1 short month, my eldest disciple, Li Qingyun, has reached the 7th level of the Qi condensation realm, shattering all previous records of the Heavenly Sword sect, becoming the sect's undisputed #1 prodigy. My second disciple, Zhao Xuan, possesses a cultivation speed second only to his senior brother and has now broken through to the 6th level of the Qi condensation realm. Such terrifying cultivation speed has not only shaken the disciples of other peaks, but even the sect master and the supreme elders have been stirred. However, I have never been particularly concerned with these matters, yet one day, upon returning to my quarters, I suddenly found my eldest disciple, Li Qingyun, tidying my room. Seeing this, I was not surprised in the slightest. Since Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan entered Shaoyun Peak every day after their cultivation sessions, they have taken turns cleaning my quarters. One could say they are very attentive in caring for their master. Hearing my footsteps, Li Qingyun turned around to look. He froze for a moment, then hurriedly set down his broom. He bowed and offered a salute. Disciple pays respects to master. I waved my hand. Continue with your task. Watching Li Qingyun clean my room, I could not help but remember those 6 rebellious ones. Every time they took the initiative to seek me out, it was only to demand cultivation resources, and at times when I could not provide resources that satisfied them, they would even harbor secret resentment. Conversely, Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan have been under my tutelage for a month now and have never asked for anything. Half an incense stick later, the room was spotless, cleaned by Li Qingyun. Master, this disciple requests permission to withdraw. Having said that, he took his broom and headed outside. Suddenly, I remembered something and called out to him. Wait, Master, is there something you need? Have you used up your cultivation resources from last month already? As I spoke, I casually took out 2 bags of spirit stones and several vials of elixirs and tossed them to him. These are your cultivation resources for this month. In truth, the resources for this month should have been delivered to them 2 days ago. The reason I hadn't given it to them yet was simply because I had been busy with my cultivation and had forgotten. Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan are truly too honest. They didn't even think to ask for it when I didn't provide it. Li Qingyun was stunned for a moment, then accepted the items and nodded before departing. Watching his retreating figure, my mind involuntarily conjured the images of the other 2. By now, Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin must have been at Qingming Peak for a month. They are likely only at the 2nd level of the Qi condensation realm. In reality, I had vastly overestimated these 2 rebellious disciples. After a month of cultivation, they both remained stuck at the 1st level of the Qi condensation realm. This realization has driven them both to the brink of desperation. Senior sister, it seems that without the divine origin pill, we are not even on par with ordinary disciples. Chu Qingmin said, feeling dejected. She finally understands the truth now. That she could become a heaven-defying prodigy in her past life was entirely due to the divine origin pills I provided. Lu Ruan sighed and shook her head, having also realized the limitations of her own talent. What are we to do then, senior sister? I want the divine origin pill. Chu Qingmin looked at Lu Ruyan with an earnest expression. Having tasted the feeling of being a true prodigy, she is utterly unable to endure her own mediocrity. Lu Ruyan sighed. I want it too. If only Chen Yang still possessed those divine origin pills. The room fell into a prolonged heavy silence. After a long while, Lu Ruyan finally spoke. Junior sister, perhaps we should seek out Master to see if we can request additional resources. Chu Qingmin nodded slightly, her face betraying a clear sense of hopelessness. In truth, they had received their monthly cultivation resources 2 days ago, but the amount was so meager that it had been exhausted in just 2 days. Soon enough, the two found their master within the main hall. Standing behind Shi Wuji was the eldest senior sister Yang Yuyan. Disciples pay their respects to Master. They both bowed simultaneously, their attitudes showing the utmost reverence. However, upon seeing Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin, Shi Wuji did not appear particularly pleased. What business do you two have with me? Master, our cultivation progress has been stagnant, and we feel that our current cultivation resources are truly insufficient, so we were wondering if you could grant us a few more resources. That is correct, Master. The monthly resources provided by the sect are far. Chu Qingmin seemed oblivious to the shift in her master's temperament, launching immediately into a long string of complaints. Hearing this, Shi Wuji's expression darkened instantly. These two disciples were progressing at a snail's pace, yet they had the audacity to demand resources from him. Do you truly think this is appropriate? Chu Qingmin nodded repeatedly. Of course it is appropriate, Master. You are our master. When we encounter difficulties in our cultivation, it is only natural that you resolve them for us. She clearly failed to notice that her master's fury was mounting, continuing to look at Shi Wuji with a frivolous expression. Lu Ruyan, sensing the instability in her master's demeanor, hurriedly tugged on her sleeve before bowing her head to speak. Master, we truly feel that the resources provided are insufficient, and we have been forced to come to you out of sheer necessity. We beg you to assist us one last time. Lu Ruyan humbled herself significantly. Shi Wuji looked at the two of them and laughed in genuine disbelief. They were demanding resources simply because their own were lacking. Do you have any idea how many disciples reside on Qingming Peak? If everyone acted as you do, how could I possibly fulfill the duties of a master? The others do not come to demand handouts. By what right do the two of you approach me? I must have been blind to ever take the two of you as my disciples. Shi Wuji berated them relentlessly before flicking his sleeves in a fit of rage and storming away. Yang Yuyan could not help but chime in with a mocking tone. The two of you truly have no shame. To brazenly demand resources from your master as if it were your birthright, refusing to focus on your cultivation while constantly seeking shortcuts, you deserve to be reprimanded. Glancing at them with contempt, she turned and departed as well. The mockery caused Chu Qingmin to grit her teeth in frustration. In her previous life, such a person wouldn't have even been qualified to carry her shoes. Although Lu Ru's answer was calmer than Chu Qingmin, she was also deeply incensed by these remarks. Indeed, he is our master. What is wrong with us demanding resources? In our previous life, whenever we demanded resources from Chen Yang, he never once refused our requests. Lu Ruyan let the words slip, but after composing herself, she suddenly realized her mistake. Wait, if that man Chen Yang was truly kind to me, why did he refuse to give me the final chapter of the Nine Heavens Profound Spirit Manual in our past life? Lu Ruyan gritted her teeth. He had achieved the status of a great emperor in his previous life, yet he had stubbornly refused to hand over that final volume. This memory filled her with deep resentment toward him. At that very moment, several disciples approached from the distance, chatting as they walked. Have you brothers heard the news? 2 peerless prodigies have emerged within our sect. In just 1 month, they have reached the 7th and 6th levels of the Qi condensation stage. Is that true? How terrifying. Those are what one would call true prodigies. It is said that these two, Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan, are both disciples of Shaoyun Peak. These disciples walked past Lu Ruyan and Chu Yingmin, yet their words pierced through the hearts of these two women like needles. The title of prodigy, which should have belonged to them, had been snatched away by others. This sensation drove them both to the brink of madness with envy. What is so talented about those two, Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan? If not for the spirit origin pills, how could they have possibly become prodigies? Chu Qingmin spoke with a mocking tone, claiming they were merely fortunate enough to have found a good master. Lu Ruyan agreed wholeheartedly, completely oblivious to the fact that she had just implicitly acknowledged me, their master, as capable. At that same moment, while I was sipping tea on Shaoyun Peak, I suddenly sneezed several times. Have I caught a cold? I scratched my head in confusion, only to realize the absurdity of that thought a moment later. That is impossible. I am at the origin core stage. How could I possibly be affected by the cold? It must be those wretched ingrates cursing me behind my back. They had better not come begging for my favor later, or they will surely regret it. Just as I was feeling indignant, a clear melodious female voice echoed from afar. Elder Chen, is there a reason you are sitting here alone, seething with anger? I turned my head to see a graceful and enchanting woman appearing behind me. Oh, sect master, what brings you here? The one who arrived was Yun Yan, the sect master of the Heavenly Sword Sect. and the only female sect master among the 10 great sects of the southern wasteland. I was merely idle, so I decided to visit your Shaoyun Peak for a look. In that case, sect master, please take a seat. She agreed. Jun slowly sat down, then smiled as she looked at me. That reminds me, Elder Chen, I hear the 2 disciples under your tutelage possess astonishing talent, to the point that even my own inner disciples cannot compare. Hearing this, my hand froze mid-sip. I knew it. Yunyan definitely had an ulterior motive. She hadn't even warmed her seat yet, and she was already looking to poach my disciples. I had experienced something similar in my past life. At that time, it had not been long since I had taken in the 3 of them, including Lu Ruyan, when this very Yunyan suddenly paid a visit to Shaoyun Peak. After that, she proposed moving all 3 of my disciples under her command. In my past life, I had flatly refused. After all, the reason they were able to become prodigies was solely because I had used divine origin pills to cleanse their marrow and refine their spirits. How could I possibly hand them over to someone else? But in this life, my perspective has shifted. Sect Master, what exactly are you trying to say? Elder Chen, the truth is, I have come here because I have taken a liking to 2 of your disciples. I wish to take them into my tutelage so that they may become direct disciples of the Heaven Sword sect. If you have any demands, feel free to state them to me. Upon hearing this, my expression remained calm. I have no objections, but we must ask them whether they are willing. Having been reborn, I had little interest in taking on disciples to begin with. In the past, taking in Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan was only a favor to Yunyan. However, this matter should still be decided by those it directly concerns. Hearing my response, Yunyan immediately stood up. Then, Elder Chen, where are those 2 disciples of yours? Let us go ask for their opinions right now. Having said that, she transformed into a streak of light and took flight. I shook my head instinctively and followed after her. Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan, come out for a moment. Your master has business with you. Hearing my voice, the 2 disciples stepped out from their cultivation cave. Upon seeing the sect master standing beside me, both were stunned, then hurriedly bowed. Greetings, master. Greetings, sect master. I glanced at Yunyan beside me, pondered for a moment, and then spoke slowly. The situation is this. Today the sect master came to me, wishing to transfer you both to her tutelage to study under her. I do not know, are you 2 willing? Hearing this, Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan looked at each other. Seeing that the 2 remained silent, Yunyan stepped forward. Li Qingyun, if you join my tutelage, you will become direct disciples of the Heaven Sword sect. In the future, not only will your status within the sect be elevated, but you will also receive far more cultivation resources, which will be of great benefit to your progress. I wonder what your thoughts are. Once Yunyan finished speaking, however, after exchanging another look, Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan seemed to have reached an understanding and immediately knelt down. Disciple does not wish to. Yan's eyes widened disbelief. She had assumed these 2 would accept the master-disciple relationship without hesitation, as it was not their place to refuse. Even I could not help but be stunned. If you become my disciples, you will be the true direct descendants of the Heavenly Sword sect. Within the sect, your status will surpass all other disciples, and countless resources will be poured into your cultivation. Do you realize what that signifies? Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan raised their heads, thanking the sect master for his benevolence. We are grateful, but we still wish to remain at Shaoyun Peak. Their resolve remained completely unshaken. They were, of course, fully aware of what being a disciple to the sect master entailed. But in their eyes, had I not chosen them from among hundreds of others, they would never have been able to enter the 7 main peaks to begin with. Furthermore, they understood clearly that their own innate talent and foundation were unremarkable. Had it not been for the divine origin pill I granted each of them, how could they have stepped onto the path of peerless prodigies? It was I who had fundamentally altered their destinies. Yunyan revealed a look of reluctance, but ultimately sighed. Since you do not wish to, let us leave this matter aside. After Yunyan departed, I looked at my 2 disciples, feeling deeply moved. In truth, becoming the sect master's disciples would not necessarily be a bad thing. It would be of great benefit to your cultivation. Master, since we have already pledged our loyalty to you, we cannot serve another. Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan bowed low to the ground, their voices filled with absolute conviction. Seeing the sincerity in their demeanor, I said nothing more, merely retrieving 2 bags of medicinal pills from the system space. Rise, here are 2 bags of qi-gathering pills. Take them and focus on your cultivation. Meanwhile, at the Taoist temple on Lingshu Mountain, Lin Xuaner was desperate to purge the goo parasite from her body. For the past month, she had seized every moment to cultivate, consuming the elixirs provided by the Crimson Cloud Immortal Venerable every single day. Yet, in the next moment, her brows suddenly furrowed. Ah, damn it, the blood-devouring goo has flared up again. As the words left her lips, a sensation akin to being gnawed upon radiated from her heart. Within the cramped room, her agonizing screams echoed through the air. It took a full 15 minutes before the torment finally began to subside. Lying on the floor, Lin Xuaner stared hollowly at the ceiling rafters, wondering why the goo poison remained unsuppressed despite her practicing the Blood Demon 10 Stars technique. For the past month, she had poured all her efforts into the Blood Demon 10 Stars technique, but the more she cultivated, the more she felt that something was wrong. The deeper she delved into this technique, the more active the goo poison within her body became. Lin Xuaner lay on the floor, resting for a long while before she regained enough strength to rise. But as she slowly stood up and caught sight of her reflection in the mirror, she was suddenly struck dumb with shock. How could this be? My face seems to have aged significantly. This will not do. I must seek out my master and discover what has befallen me. Lin Xuan quickly arrived at the main hall. Disciple greets master. My apprentice, you seem frantic. What is the matter? Immortal Qian observed his student, who looked as if he had aged 10 years, and immediately realized it was the consequence of practicing the Blood Demon Seven Hearts technique. It seems this disciple has been training with great intensity over the past month. He rejoiced inwardly. Master, I have many questions and I pray for your guidance. Speak your mind, and whatever I can clarify for you, I shall. Master, you said that practicing the Blood Demon Seven Hearts technique would suppress the goo worm within me, but why is it that today I feel the heart-eating goo has not been suppressed at all? On the contrary, the poison from the insect is flaring up even more frequently. Furthermore, Master, ever since I began this cultivation technique, my appearance seems to be aging rapidly. Immortal Qian had already prepared his excuses. My disciple, have no fear. These are all normal reactions. Because you have only just begun your training, the technique cannot yet fully suppress the goo worm. Instead, it has agitated the parasite, causing it to thrash within your body as it struggles against the suppression. Lin Xuan fell into deep thought upon hearing this, while Immortal Qian wore a sinister smile. He had used this exact deception to swindle countless disciples before. Most believed him blindly, and those who dared to doubt him were forcibly refined into his puppets. Master, but why is my appearance aging? Lin Xuan was in part convinced by Immortal Qian's explanation. Immortal Qian sighed deeply upon hearing the question. This is because you have been far too impatient. Recently, in your pursuit of the Blood Demon Seven Hearts technique, have you not been practicing without regard for food or sleep? Lin Shu nodded honestly. That is precisely it. Excessive cultivation exhausts your essence, inevitably leading to a withered appearance. Hearing this explanation, Lin Xuan's eyes widened, though he remained partially skeptical. He felt that this reasoning was somewhat forced. Seeing Lin Xuan's lingering doubt, Immortal Qian withdrew a bottle of elixirs from his storage ring. I have personally refined this beauty restoring pill, which possesses the effect of nourishing one's features. Take one pill each day, and before long you will surely regain your youthful appearance. As soon as these words were spoken, Lin Xuan, who had been harboring suspicions, cast all his doubts aside immediately. He took the elixir and turned to leave. But as soon as Lin Xuan's back vanished from the main hall, Immortal Qian revealed a smile filled with hidden malice. Such a fool. He believed in the youth-preserving elixir without a shred of doubt. In reality, it was not a youth-preserving elixir at all, but rather, like the blood-slaying pill, it was merely nourishment specifically prepared for the heart-eating goo. Lin Yani remained completely oblivious. Back in his room, he could not resist consuming the medicinal pill immediately. Meanwhile, at the Heaven Sword sect, after seeing Yunyan off, I focused my entire mind on cultivation. As the days passed, the primordial essence within my body grew increasingly potent, and I could sense that a breakthrough was imminent. As for my two disciples, ever since Yunyan's previous visit, they seemed gripped by the fear that I might abandon them. Every day, aside from tidying my chambers, they dedicated themselves to frantic cultivation. Both of them seemed to believe that if they worked hard enough for their master to see their efforts, they would not be cast aside. Under their grueling regimen, in just a short fortnight, Li Qingyun achieved a breakthrough to the 9th level of the Qi condensation realm, sending shockwaves throughout the entire Heaven Sword sect. Although Zhao Chuan did not quite match Li Qingyun, his progress was hardly any slower, having broken through to the 8th level of the Qi condensation realm within those same 2 weeks. As the sect master, Yunyan was filled with admiration, yet she also felt a sense of regret. One has to wonder what exactly that man Chen Yang did to transform 2 ordinary disciples into such prodigies. While others only saw the brilliance of my disciples, she was capable of perceiving the underlying truth. She recalled the sect assessment where the aptitude and foundations of Li Qing, Yun and Zhou Chuan were clearly quite mediocre, yet now they had soared to become true prodigies. There was no need to ask whose accomplishment this was. Even though her own disciples were considered talented, why did they pale in comparison to Chen Yang's pupils? Forget it, no use dwelling on it. Regardless, they all belonged to the Heaven Sword sect. Just as Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan shook the Heaven Sword sect once more from the Qingming chamber, Lu Ruyan and Chu Qing could no longer remain composed. Since hearing the news that my 2 disciples had become peerless prodigies, Lu Ruyan had been deeply demoralized. Over the past half-month, she had thrown herself into cultivation with madness. Yesterday, she finally achieved a breakthrough to the 2nd level of the Spirit Qi realm, yet today she received the news regarding my 2 disciples. One had broken through to the 9th level of the Qi condensation realm, and the other to the 8th. This insurmountable gap left her instantly disheartened. Since your sister, we were wrong. Without the divine order, Chuthan Man was in a state of profound despair. She now understood that her status as a favored daughter of the heavens in her previous life was entirely due to the god origin pill I had provided. Lu Ruyan shook her head and sighed, finally realizing the true extent of her own mediocre talent. Senior sister, what are we to do? I must have a god origin pill. Chuthan Man looked at Lu Ruyan with an anxious expression. Having once tasted the life of a peerless genius, she could not bear to endure the weight of her own insignificance. Lu Ruyan sighed, I desire it as well. But only Chen Yang possesses the god origin pill. Be that as it may, junior sister, let us go and find him first. Right now, all I can think about is obtaining that pill. A flicker of hesitation crossed Lu Ruyan's eyes, but she ultimately hardened her resolve. Very well. If we can secure the god origin pill, our current predicament will be resolved. Returning to this familiar place, the 2 could not help but feel a bitter ache in their hearts. Just then, 2 young disciples emerged from the courtyard. Junior sisters, may I ask what business brings you to our Shaoyun Peak? Hearing this, Chu Thonman recalled the purpose of their visit. She also remembered the master she had come to despise. She stepped forward, her tone laced with irritation. Are the two of you the new disciples taken in by that man named Chen? Tell that man to come out and meet me at once. Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan frowned immediately. Seeing this, Lu Ruyan tugged at Chu Thonman's sleeve, stepped forward, and spoke politely. We are disciples of Qingming Peak. We have urgent matters to discuss with your master. We request that you lead us to him. Observing Lu Ruyan's respectful demeanor, the expressions of Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan softened slightly. But at that very moment, I approached from a distance, accompanied by two of my disciples. Upon seeing the two women behind them, I paused for a brief moment, a cold smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. These two ingrates could not resist seeking me out in the end. Master, these two claim to be disciples from Qingming Peak and are here to see you regarding a matter. I waved my hand dismissively. I am aware. You may both withdraw. As I spoke, I rose to my feet to observe these two rebellious disciples. Are these not my dutiful disciples? Why are you not at Qingming Peak focusing on your cultivation? What are you doing here at my Shaoyun Peak? Upon hearing this, Chu Qingmin stepped forward and held out her palm. Chen, my senior sister, and I are in urgent need of divine origin pills for our cultivation. Hand over 2 pills at once. This demand left me stunned. I was supposed to just hand over divine origin pills to you? On what grounds? Do I owe you anything? As these words left my lips, Chu Qingmin ground her teeth in fury, her entire body trembling uncontrollably. Seeing this, Lu Rian hurriedly stepped forward. Chen Yang, these divine origin pills are truly vital to us. With just one divine origin pill, we could instantly ascend to the ranks of supreme prodigies. Whether or not you become prodigies has absolutely nothing to do with me. Coming here to demand divine origin pills, do I owe you a debt? Has your mind finally snapped? This remark pushed even Lu Ruyan past her breaking point. Chen Yang, in our past lives, we had already attained the great emperor realm and were only a single step away from Tao enlightenment and sainthood, yet we ended up dying by your hand. It was you who personally severed our path to sainthood. Should you not be held responsible? Chu Qingmin chimed, glaring at me with malice. Our current plight is entirely your fault. We are merely asking you for one divine origin pill. By what right do you refuse us? If it were not for ingrates like you in my past life, I would have already attained Tao enlightenment and become a saint. I squandered endless cultivation resources upon you both. In the end, once you had wings, you conspired to betray your master. And now you have the audacity to claim that I severed your path to sainthood? After the scolding, I felt a wave of profound relief. Chu Qingmin's expression remained unsightly. She wanted to retort, but found herself momentarily at a loss for words. Yet she still lifted her head, speaking with a touch of defiance. Even if your words hold some truth, you possess so many divine origin pills. What harm would it do to give us one? Observing the shameless entitlement of these two ingrates, I let out a cold sneer. You both desire these divine origin pills so desperately, do you? As I spoke, I retrieved a medicinal pill from the system's spatial storage. The moment it appeared, a potent, intoxicating herbal fragrance permeated the air. Upon seeing the divine origin pill in my hand, both Lu Rian and Chu Qingmin's eyes ignited with fervor, as if they had already envisioned themselves ascending to the ranks of supreme prodigies in this lifetime. But the very next moment, they watched me cast the medicinal pill onto the ground. The golden dog that always followed at my heels caught the scent and immediately lowered its head, swallowing the pill in one gulp. Stop! Lu Rian and Chu Qingmin shrieked in horror. That was the divine origin pill they had longed for, and now it had been devoured by a mere dog. Lu Rian was so infuriated, she nearly fainted, yet she still managed to maintain a shred of composure. If you won't give us the divine origin pill, so be it. We have no need for it. Without your divine origin pill, I, Lu Ruyan, will still ascend to become a great emperor. With those words, she let out a cold snort and turned to leave. Watching their departing figures, I offered a cold, mocking laugh. Without the divine origin pill, believing that individuals with your current talent could achieve the rank of great emperor, it is nothing but a pipe dream. After those two ingrates departed, I turned my gaze toward the golden dog at my feet. Since I fed you, it is your stroke of fortune. From now on, you shall remain here at Shaoyun Peak. The dog seemed to understand my words, quickly rubbing its head against my leg, while elsewhere at the Lingshu Mountain Taoist Temple. This cannot be. Lin Xuaner stood before a bronze mirror, staring at the face that was both familiar and strange. His eyes widened in utter disbelief. In the short span of half a month, he had aged significantly, and to his horror, strands of white hair had begun to sprout. This cultivation technique is flawed, and the medicinal pills are also tainted. Recalling his previous foolishness, Lin Xuaner immediately felt he was the most mindless fool under the heavens. A towering rage filled his heart, and he burned with the desire to find that swindler and exact retribution. No, with my current strength, I am fundamentally no match for that villain. I must descend the mountain immediately. I will wait until my strength is bolstered before I return to take my revenge. Thinking this, he hurriedly packed his belongings and stepped out of his room. After confirming no one was nearby, he briskly made his way toward the back gate of the Taoist temple. Just as he was about to pass through the door, a sinister voice suddenly echoed from behind him. "Oh, my obedient disciple, where are you planning to go?" Lin Xuaner's heart seized in terror. Lin Xuaner turned back, her heart filled with bitter resentment. "Qian Immortal Venerable, cease your pretenses. You fraud, the cultivation technique you commanded me to practice. and all the medicinal pills you provided have been utterly useless against the heart-severing goo within me. Watching Lin Xuaner, whose eyes were flushed red with fury, Chiyun Immortal Venerable merely offered a mocking sneer. To be honest, you'd foolish of all the disciples I have ever taken in. It has taken you this long to realize I was deceiving you. Your senior sisters before you were far more intelligent than you. Lin Xuaner clenched her fists, desperate to throw her life away in a final assault against him. Yet there was one question she needed answered clearly before the end. Why did you give me that cultivation technique? And why use those medicinal pills to stimulate the heart-severing goo inside me? What possible benefit could you gain from doing this? Chiyun Immortal Venerable stared at her coldly, as if looking upon a corpse. Very well, I shall let you die with clarity. The heart-severing goo within you was in truth planted by me 6 years ago. Not only you, but within this 10-mile radius, almost every woman has been afflicted by me with this parasite. I have done all of this simply to refine all of you into my puppets. At this moment, the indignation in Lin Xuaner's heart reached its breaking point. You charlatan, I will stake my life against you. As the words left her lips, Lin Xuaner clenched her fists and her body began to emit faint, dark wisps of baleful energy, the very essence of the blood demon 10-star technique she had cultivated for over a month. With a heavy stomp of her foot, she launched herself forward, reaching the front of Chiyun Immortal Venerable in an instant. Chiyun Immortal Venerable curled his lip in contempt. You still wish to strike at me? Do not forget that the technique you possess was bestowed upon you by my hand. As he spoke, he merely raised his hand in a loose grip and flung Lin Xuaner aside. Lin Xuaner struggled to rise, intent on throwing herself into a suicidal charge once more, but a violent, agonizing pain surged through her body. Immediately following, she could not suppress a mouthful of blood that sprayed from her lips. Chiyun Immortal Venerable stepped closer, slowly approaching her. Disciple, stop your futile struggle. You cannot defeat your master, so why suffer in vain? He let out a sigh before hoisting Lin Xuaner up by her collar. You fraud. Even as a ghost, I will never forgive you, she hissed, gritting her teeth despite the severe injuries racking her body. Curse all you like. Once you become my puppet, you will no longer have the strength to utter a single word. Chiyun Xianzun let out a cold laugh before casting him into a secret chamber. By the time Lin Xian recovered and scrambled to his feet, the figure of Chiyun Xianzun had already vanished. Relying on the dim light, he managed to make out his surroundings. Suddenly, Lin Xuan let out a cry, his eyes widening in horror as he stared ahead. He saw figures standing just a few meters away. These figures remained as motionless as statues, staring blankly at him. What are these things? Terrified to his core, Lin Xuan could only shrink back into the corner of the room. After waiting for a long while, he realized that these figures seemed unable to move. That's right. That fraud said he wanted to refine me into a puppet. Could these corpses be the puppets he has already crafted? Lin Xuan tentatively took 2 steps forward. As he drew closer, he was struck by the overwhelming stench of rotting flesh. It seems I cannot escape this tribulation. After tomorrow, I too shall likely become like these creatures, neither human nor ghost. To become his puppet. A bitter smile spread across Lin Xuan's face. At this moment, he could not help but recall his past life, when he followed the great path and eventually ascended to become a great emperor, revered by all. Lin Xuan, you truly deserve this. Suddenly, he thought of his parents and his elder brother. Having been reborn, he had struggled so hard to reunite with his family, only to face death in the blink of an eye. By now, he no longer feared death. He only wished to see his loved ones one last time before he perished. The next morning, a sliver of sunlight pierced into the secret chamber. My disciple, it is time to wake up. I have come to collect you. In his dazed state, Lin Xuan suddenly heard a familiar voice. He opened his eyes and discovered that the person standing before him was none other than Chiyun Xianzun. You fraud, I will kill you. He struggled to rise, but in the very next instant, Chiyun Xianzun tossed out 2 talismans, which vanished into the space between his brows in a flash. Simultaneously, Lin Xuan realized he had lost the ability to move, and immediately afterward, an agonizing pain surged from his chest. This wave of pain was 100 times more intense than anything he had felt before. Before he completely lost consciousness, he turned to look at those puppet-like, grotesque figures, a tragic smile playing on his lips. After Lin Xuan fell into a deep coma, Chiyun Xianzun flicked his sleeve, retrieving his ritual artifact from his storage ring. It was a soul-gathering banner, emanating a chilling, sinister aura. But just as he prepared to use the banner to refine Lin Xuan into a puppet, a violent tremor erupted from outside. Instantly, the entire secret chamber began to shake incessantly, as if it were on the verge of collapsing. What? Chiyun Xianzun's expression changed in great alarm, and he immediately halted his movements. At that very moment, a cold voice descended from above. Demon, come out and meet your death. It seems some cultivators have arrived to meddle in our affairs. Immortal Chiyun furrowed his brows. Though filled with reluctance, he had no choice but to abandon the refinement of Lin Xuaner into a puppet. He turned to leave the secret chamber, only to discover upon stepping outside that the entire Taoist temple had been leveled to the ground, reduced to mere rubble. In the distance, several figures stood midair, led by a middle-aged cultivator. You demonic villain, you have finally revealed yourself. Today, we of the Taishuan Dao sect pass through this land to act on behalf of the heavens and execute justice. Damn it, to think it would be the Taishuan Dao sect. Immortal Chiyun was struck with surprise, and a seed of fear took root in his heart. The Taishuan Dao sect was the foremost among the 10 great sects of the southern wilderness. Such a prestigious sect was not someone he could afford to offend. I have no grievances with your Taishuan Dao sect. Why have you come here to ruin my plans? Enough with your feudal words. Since ancient times, the righteous and the demonic have stood at odds. Eliminating demons and upholding the Tao is the duty of us righteous cultivators. The middle-aged cultivator had no intention of engaging in further pleasantries. Immediately, several disciples brandishing longswords surged forward in unison. Do you truly think I am so easily bullied? If you wish to kill me, let us see if you possess the capability. Enraged, immortal Qi Yun drew out his soul-snatching banner and gave it a fierce wave. The ground beneath them suddenly split open, and subsequently several puppets surged forth from the secret chamber. The disciples of the Taishuan Dao sect evidently did not possess high cultivation levels, and they appeared to struggle against these puppets. Witnessing this, the middle-aged cultivator struck immediately. Wielding his longsword, he decimated the puppets within a few exchanges. Knowing he was outmatched, immortal Qi Yun instantly transformed into a streak of light and fled into the distance. A cold gleam flickered in the middle-aged cultivator's eyes before he vanished from his spot. Not long after, a harrowing scream echoed from the distance. Very quickly, the middle-aged cultivator returned, though the longsword in his hand was still dripping with blood. It appeared that immortal Qi Yun had perished by his blade. This demonic cultivator has no idea how many women he has harmed. These girls were still in their youth yet fell victim to his cruel hands. How truly pitiful. The middle-aged cultivator gazed at the bodies on the ground and sighed heavily, but at that exact moment, a cry of joy erupted from within the secret chamber. Elder, there is still one person here who is still alive. The middle-aged cultivator looked over. It was Lin Schwanner, who lay there unconscious. At the same time, at the Tianjian sect, I exhaled. Just then, two familiar youthful voices echoed from behind. Master, I turned around to see my two disciples. What is it? Master, we wish to head to the mission hall to see if there are any suitable tasks. We want to descend the mountain to temper ourselves. Seeing this, I nodded in approval. Go ahead. Descending the mountain for training is indeed beneficial, I replied. Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan immediately set off for the mission hall. Scarcely had they entered the hall when Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin also arrived together. Senior sister, must we truly head out to undertake a mission? Chu Qingmin wore an expression of hesitation. She had only reached the first layer of the qi condensation realm. With such strength, a single moment of carelessness could cost her her life in the outside world. Junior sister, we lack divine origin pills, and Master refuses to grant us cultivation resources. If we rely solely on our own efforts, our progress will never be fast. Right now, apart from heading out to accept missions, we have no other choice. Have you forgotten? In our previous life, we once ventured out on a mission, senior sister. Are you referring to the time we went to Qinghe Town to slaughter the red wolf beasts? Reminded, Chu Qingmin quickly recalled the memory. In their past life, after joining the Heavenly Sword sect, their very first mission outside was to Qinghe Town, where they slew a pack of red wolf beasts, a feat that earned them substantial sect rewards. That is correct, it was that very time. A mission with such generous rewards will surely attract the attention of many disciples. When the time comes, we need only follow in their footsteps, act swiftly to complete the requirements, and once the mission is finished, we return to the sect simply to collect the bounty. Chu Qingmin's eyes lit up and a look of delight immediately appeared on her face. Why had she not thought of such an effortless way to gain benefits? But immediately after, a thought crossed her mind and a flicker of anxiety appeared in her eyes. But I recall that this mission involved a red wolf beast at the Tiangang realm. If it were to appear, would we not be in grave danger? Rest assured, junior sister, we did not encounter that Tiangang realm red wolf beast in our previous life, and we shall not encounter it in this one. Lu Run patted her shoulder, urging her to set her heart at ease. The two then walked into the mission hall together. Upon receiving their mission, they discovered that 6 others had also accepted the same task, bringing the total to 8. However, what Lu Rian and Chu Qingmin had not expected was that among those 6 others were Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan. Seeing Lu Rian and Chu Qingmin, Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan were caught off guard. Although there was no love lost between the two sides, they had accepted the same mission, and it was now too late to turn back. The group of 8 then set off together toward Qinghe Town. Along the way, they introduced themselves to one another. Upon learning the identities of Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan, the other disciples were astounded. With the exception of Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin, the other disciples began to fawn over Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan, which made the two women feel deeply uncomfortable. The Heavenly Sword sect was not considered far from Qinghe Town. By the afternoon, the group had arrived at the outskirts of the town. Before they could even enter, they saw from a distance that dozens of red-furred wolves were rampaging through the streets. Li Qingyun's gaze turned icy, and he immediately lunged forward. The others exchanged glances before charging in as well, leaving only Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin to seek a safe place to hide. As Li Qingyun and the others battled the demonic beasts, some villagers recognized their identities. They cheered with immediate excitement. It is wonderful. These are disciples from the Heavenly Sword sect. We are saved. The two men fought with immense valor. In a short time, the beasts in Qinghe Town were eradicated. Only then did Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin emerge from hiding. As they approached, they saw a crowd of villagers surrounding Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan, offering endless words of gratitude. The two women, ignored by the villagers, felt a surge of resentment, but before they could speak, a shrill cry erupted from the distance. There are still more. Everyone, run. Looking up, they saw a red-furred wolf charging toward them with frantic intensity. This red-furred wolf was clearly in a different league than the ones they had just slain. This is a demonic beast in the Tiangong realm. Were we not told there would only be a pack of beasts in the Lingxi realm? Why would a Tiangong realm beast appear here? One disciple stared in disbelief. Senior sister, why has this Tiangong realm beast appeared? In our previous life, we never encountered it. It shouldn't have appeared this time either, should it? I am not certain, but perhaps since our rebirth, some events have begun to change. Just as the two women were pondering the situation, a disciple approached Li Qingyun. Senior brother Qingyun, perhaps we should retreat. This demonic beast is not something we can contend with. Li Qingyun shook his head with firm resolve, then leaped forward, charging directly toward the Crimson Wolf beast. Do not go far, senior brother, I am coming to assist you. No sooner had he spoken than Zhao Chuan also surged out from the crowd. Yet, contrary to everyone's expectations, Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan did not fall into a disadvantageous position. Are these truly the immortals? Their prowess is simply extraordinary. The villagers below watched the figures of the two men, their eyes filled with profound reverence. Lu Ruyan was inherently unwilling to accept defeat, and as she heard the others heaping praise upon Li Qingyun, the resentment in her heart was more bitter than swallowing gall. She gritted her teeth, steeling her resolve. Once this mission was complete and she secured the cultivation resources from the sect, she would train with reckless abandonment. The #1 prodigy of the Heavenly Sword sect must be none other than Lu Ruyan. Ultimately, through the combined efforts of Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan, the demonic beast was successfully slain. On the journey back, the others took turns congratulating the pair, affirming that the greatest merit undoubtedly belonged to them. Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin snorted coldly, thinking to themselves that these people were nothing more than a pack of sycophants. But just then, someone suddenly stepped forward. That is right, I have just recalled something. Earlier, while we were struggling with all our might against the beast, it seems someone was skulking about, shirking their duties. Upon hearing this, Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin were instantly seized by panic. What? Who was the one shirking their duties? The others, upon hearing this, became enraged, each of them filled with indignation. The expressions on Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin's faces turned ghastly, and they could not help but take a step back. The disciple from earlier saw this, pointed his finger at the two women, and declared it was them. I saw with my own eyes that they found a place to hide. A pack of shirkers. Do not even think about receiving any portion of our rewards. Indeed, they shall not receive a single thing. Upon hearing that these people had no intention of sharing the mission rewards with them, Lu Ruyan and Chu Qing nearly jumped in desperation. We participated in this mission as well. We are entitled to our share. You have no right to seize what belongs to us. That is, by what right do you refuse to share the spoils with us? Yet, regardless of what the two women said, the others only displayed expressions of contempt. Weary of the conversation, they departed immediately, leaving the two women standing there. Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin were deathly pale, their expressions filled with anguish. Chu Qingmin felt increasingly aggrieved the more she pondered the situation. As for Lu Ruyan, she was so infuriated that smoke was practically venting from her 7 orifices. She had originally expected this mission to provide her with a generous portion of cultivation resources, but now her ambitions had surely vanished like smoke in the wind. Because news of Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan slaying the beast so swiftly had spread throughout the sect. The actions of Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin had also caused many disciples to look down upon them. From now on, it is highly likely that no one will want to form a team with them for future missions. Reflecting on the current plight of these two rebellious disciples, I find myself in an excellent mood. However, it has already been a month and a half, and I wonder how my third disciple is faring. Could he have perished at the hands of that so-called Qiyun Immortal Venerable? I shook my head, deciding not to dwell on it further before returning to my cave dwelling to enter seclusion. Lin Xian'er remained unconscious for 5 full days. Upon waking, she discovered she was lying in an unfamiliar room. At that moment, a woman dressed in white pushed the door open and entered. You are finally awake? Lin Xian'er gazed at the stranger, her expression filled with confusion. Am I not supposed to be on Lingshu Mountain? What about the Taoist temple of that Qiyun Immortal Venerable? Where is that fraud? Lin Xian'er was filled with questions. Seeing this, the woman in white smiled and said, I am a disciple of the Taishuan Taoist sect. Young lady, we saved your life. That demonic cultivator has already perished beneath the sword of my martial uncle. Dead? Lin Xian'er was stunned at first, but her expression soon shifted into uncontrollable excitement. Good riddance. That wretched fraud has finally met his end. Suddenly, Lin Xian'er remembered her family and could not help but feel anxious. Wait, are my parents unharmed? I cannot stay here. I must return home to check on them. Your injuries have not yet healed. Perhaps it would be better to stay until you have recovered before leaving. The woman in white urged her, but Lin Xian'er insisted, that will not do. I must return home. I must return at once. At this moment, Lin Xian'er refused to stay. Her heart was consumed by the safety of her family. The woman in white could not hold her back in the end. Lin Xian'er dragged Li, whose body was heavily wounded, and made a hurried departure. 2 hours later, she rushed frantically to her front door. Yet the entire courtyard was empty. Not a soul was in sight. Anxiety gnawed at Lin Xian'er. Had her family fallen victim to the ruthless machinations of that Qiyun Immortal Venerable? But at that exact moment, the youthful voice of a child drifted in from outside. Who is inside? Lin Xian'er turned to look and saw a young child standing in her courtyard. A glimmer of hope ignited in Lin Xian'er's eyes. Little one, do you know where the family that lived here has gone? Mother said they moved to the town to live. They won't be returning. Moved to the town? A flash of relief crossed Lin Xian'er's eyes, immediately followed by a surge of bewilderment. Everything had been fine. Why would her family suddenly relocate to the town? Furthermore, where would they have acquired the funds for such a move? Although her heart was heavy with doubt, Lin Xianer was relieved that her family was unharmed. With this thought, she immediately set off toward the town. Time lost all meaning, and eventually Lin Xianer stood before a small courtyard. By now, the sky had turned completely dark. Seeing the gate ajar, she prepared to slip inside to surprise her family. She raised her hand to push the door open, but suddenly the voice of her mother, Zhang Shulian, drifted out. Our family is finally living a life of comfort. It is all thanks to our obedient daughter. Hearing this, Lin Xianer froze. Suspicion stirred within her and she quietly withdrew her hand from the door. Indeed, if not for her, that Qi Yun Immortal Venerable would never have given us money, and we could never have afforded this house. Lin Qingshan sighed with deep emotion. Father, mother, tell me, my younger sister must be dead by now, right? Lin Tianyu asked with idle curiosity. If she's dead, then she's dead. We have already received the money. Whatever the Qi Yun Immortal Venerable does to her is none of our concern. Lin Qingshan spoke with an indifferent expression, showing absolutely no regard for the life or death of his own daughter. The three of them did not know that the one they deemed dead was standing at their door, having heard every single word they uttered. I nearly perished at the hands of that fraud, the Qi Yun Immortal Venerable, yet they have taken his blood money to enjoy a life of luxury here. How foolish I have been. Lin Xianer laughed manically. In this moment, she felt that she had truly become a mockery of herself. In a fit of uncontrollable rage, she kicked the heavy doors wide open. The three members of the Lin family, Lin Qingshan and the others, were struck with confusion. As they turned around and saw Lin Xianer standing at the entrance, her face twisted into a wretched smile, their eyes widened in unison. Daughter, why have you returned? This is not right. Why have you become so withered and aged? Zhang Shilian was startled by the sight of her daughter's decrepit appearance. Lin Xianer stared at the trio with bloodshot eyes, her entire body emitting waves of pitch-black, sinister energy. I regarded you as my dearest kin, yet you cast me into the pit of fire. Lin Xianer laughed hysterically like a madwoman who had completely lost her reason. Sister, please do not be like this. You frighten me. Lin Tianwu gathered his courage and stepped forward, intending to calm Lin Xianer down. Yet, in the next instant, Lin Xianer's powerful hand clamped around his throat, lifting his entire body into the air. Rebellious daughter, what are you doing? He is your own brother. Lin Qingshan shouted in a panic. Lin Xianer glanced at him, a flicker of bone-chilling killing intent flashing through her eyes. She let out a scornful, icy laugh and exerted force. Lin Tianwu let out a tragic shriek as his throat was crushed instantly by Lin Xianer's grip. She tossed Lin Tianwu's corpse aside as if it were refuse and began to advance toward Lin Qingshan step by step. Seeing the murderous aura radiating from Lin Xianer, Lin Qingshan felt his body tremble, but bolstered by the belief that he was her father, he regained a fragment of his confidence. This unfilial daughter, could she truly intend to murder her own father? Lin Xianer said nothing. She simply raised her hand and struck out. A crisp, resounding slap echoed through the air as Lin Qingshan's head was twisted completely around his neck. Zhang Shulian was paralyzed with terror. She crawled and scrambled toward the door, screaming, "Murder! Someone save me!" Yet the moment she rushed out of the courtyard, the silhouette of Lin Xianer descended from the sky, blocking her path. Zhang Shulian was struck with utter, paralyzing horror. "I am your mother. You cannot kill me." Lin Xianer laughed coldly. "My mother? Do you truly still consider me your daughter?" Having spoken, she struck down with a palm filled with lethal intent, slamming it onto the crown of Zhang Shulian's head and personally executing her own family, Lin Xianer. Yet she felt no joy. She felt only an overwhelming sense of desolation. Looking back now, pledging my loyalty to him as my master in my previous life was the most correct decision I ever made. The mere thought of how he treated me with such kindness while I harbored nothing but hatred in return. A boundless surge of regret welled up within Lin Xianer's heart. She stood dazed beside the corpse, alternating between bouts of weeping and manic laughter, like someone who had lost their mind. At the same time, atop Shaoyun Peak, following my period of seclusion, a powerful pressure surged into the heavens. As I cultivated, I suddenly opened my eyes. Could it be that I was breaking through just like that? Sensing the changes within my body, I found it difficult to believe. It seems that I had previously suppressed my cultivation realm far too much. Having broken through to the nascent soul stage, I was in an excellent mood and immediately rose to leave my cultivation cave. However, the moment I stepped outside, I saw a yellow dog wagging its tail in fawning submission. Seeing this, I could not help but be surprised. It had only been 3 days, yet I discovered that the creature seemed to have undergone further changes. It appears you have awakened your spiritual intelligence. It won't be long before you can shed your form and become a demonic beast. This was the moment I emerged from seclusion. At the entrance of the Tianjian sect, 2 disciples on guard duty suddenly noticed a woman with a haggard expression climbing up from the foot of the mountain. "Who are you?" "I am a disciple of Elder Chen from Shaoyun Peak. I beg the 2 of you to head to Shaoyun Peak and deliver a message. I wish to see my master." Lin Xianer was extremely weak at this moment, appearing as though she barely possessed the strength to speak. "Elder Chen is my master." The 2 gatekeeping disciples exchanged bewildered glances. They recalled that Elder Chen only had 2 disciples, and both of them were men. Nevertheless, since this woman knew Elder Chen, it was only reasonable that they should head to Shaoyun Peak to report the matter. "What is your name?" "My name is..." Before Lin Xianer could finish her sentence, she weakly collapsed onto the ground. "Very well, wait here. I will make a trip to Shaoyun Peak." I, currently on Shaoyun Peak, quickly received this news. You say there is a woman over 30 at the gate wishing to see me, and she claims to be my disciple? I stared at the disciple who had come to report the news with a look of utter confusion. That is correct. The woman claims her name is Lin Schwanner. Wait a moment. My eyes widened in shock. Is Lin Schwanner not merely 16 years of age? How has she aged into someone past 30? After a moment of contemplation, I nodded and spoke. I shall accompany you to see what this is about. We soon arrived at the main gate. Before I could even utter a word, Lin Schwanner hurriedly knelt upon the ground. Master, I was wrong. Master, I know my faults. She bowed her head repeatedly while sobbing, consumed by bitterness and humiliation as she reflected on all she had endured over the past month. Amidst her wretched wailing, she recounted the plight of her family and the treachery of that so-called Chiun immortal venerable. Watching her disheveled state, tears and mucus streaming down her face in a display of pathetic grievance, I recoiled in disdain and retreated a step. Do not address me as master. I have no such disciple as you. Having said that, I turned on my heel and began to walk away. Seeing this, Lin Schwanner panicked. Master, if you do not forgive me today, I shall remain kneeling here forever. If you enjoy kneeling, then by all means continue. I did not bother to look back, vanishing into the distance in an instant. Watching the silhouette of her master depart, Lin Schwanner bit her lip, her resolve growing all the more firm. Upon returning to Little Cloud Peak, I found myself smiling the entire journey. Zhao Xuan observed this with a hint of confusion. It appeared the master was in an exceptionally good mood today. Li Qingyun, upon hearing this, offered an explanation. A gatekeeper disciple recently came to report. He said a woman claiming to be the master's disciple was waiting at the gate. The master went to meet her briefly, and upon his return, he seemed remarkably cheerful. Fellow disciple, since when did master take on a female student? Hearing this, Zhao Chuan became even more bewildered, his heart filled with curiosity regarding this mysterious woman. Senior brother, let us go and see who she is. Li Qingyun pondered for a moment before nodding in agreement. Before long, the two senior brothers arrived at the gate, observing from afar a woman kneeling upon the earth. The moment they caught sight of her, both were struck with astonishment. This person appeared even older than their own master. Since when did master have a disciple of this appearance? With hearts full of suspicion, they approached Lin Schwanner. Lin Schwanner caught sight of them as well. She recognized these two from the time of the recruitment examination. They were the very disciples I had accepted. Who are you? Zhao Chuan spoke up to ask. Lin Schwanner replied sharply. My identity is of no concern to you. Li Qingyun took a step forward. Then why do you claim to be a disciple of our master? That is none of your concern. Lin Schwanner turned her head away, unwilling to pay them any further heed. Zhao Chuan felt a flash of irritation and prepared to lose his temper, but Li Qingyun held him back. Very well, junior brother. If she refuses to speak, let us depart. Do you not see that she bears no resemblance to a disciple of our master? Otherwise, why would master allow her to kneel here? Lin Schwanner watched their retreating figures, biting her lip in defiance. In her past life, she and the master shared 3,000 years of history as teacher and student. These two had only apprenticed for a little over a month. They were far from her equals. Just then, the two gatekeeping disciples watched Li Qingyun and Zhao Xuan, unable to refrain from gossiping. Have you heard? A few days ago, when Li Qingyun and Zhao Chuan descended the mountain for a mission, they managed to leapfrog their cultivation level to slay a Heaven Origin realm demonic beast. I have heard of this. They are now the pride of our Heaven Sword sect. In only a month, they are already on the verge of breaking through to the Heaven Origin realm. Their talent is truly heaven-defying. Every word of their conversation drifted clearly into Lin Schwanner's ears. Upon hearing this, she pressed her lips together, knowing with certainty that they had received the divine origin pill from their master. Thinking of how she had personally thrown away the master who once loved her most, she was filled with agonizing regret. She remained kneeling on the ground for 3 hours. Just as she was on the verge of fainting, the soul-devouring boned poison within her suddenly flared. Lin Schwanner's eyes widened in agony, and a heart-wrenching scream echoed throughout the mountain gates. The two gatekeeping disciples observed the scene with growing apprehension. What is wrong with her? I do not know. Should we go and check on her? I fear she might perish here. Do not go. She is not a disciple of our Heaven Sword sect. Judging by this display, she has likely been poisoned. It is best not to invite trouble upon ourselves. The two gatekeepers exchanged opinion. It is unknown how much tasked before Lin Schwanner, lying upon the ground, finally began to calm down. Just then, an elder clad in white robes arrived from the distance, riding upon a flying sword. As he prepared to enter the gates, he noticed Lin Schwanner lying there, and a sense of curiosity stirred within him. You two, what is the meaning of this? The elder in white robes questioned the gate-guarding disciples. One disciple stepped forward and recounted the entire sequence of events. This elder in white was an elder of the Miscellaneous Affairs Peak. Looking at Lin Schwanner lying on the ground, he felt a flicker of sympathy. After a moment of hesitation, he let out a helpless sigh. Very well, my peak is currently short of hands. I shall take her in as a miscellaneous disciple. 2 hours later, inside an unfamiliar room, Lin Schwanner awakened on a bed. Where is this? Was I not kneeling before the gates? She surveyed her surroundings with an expression of bewilderment, but suddenly a thought crossed her mind, and her eyes lit up. Could it be that her master had brought her back to Shaoyun Peak? At that very moment, the door pushed open and an elder in white robe stepped inside. Seeing the stranger, Lin Schwanner was stunned, then asked with guarded wariness, "Who are you?" The white-haired elder offered a gentle smile. "I am Lu Waiwan, an elder of the Heavenly Sword sect, responsible for managing the miscellaneous disciples. It was I who saved you and brought you here earlier. What? You saved me? Lin Xuaner's eyes widened as she stared at the stranger before her, her heart sinking into the depths of despair. Seeing her disappointed expression, Liu Huayuan asked with curiosity, "Why were you kneeling before the gates for so long today?" Lin Xuaner sighed, "It is nothing. I simply wish to join the Heavenly Sword sect. You sought to apprentice under Elder Chen of Shaoyun Peak, so that was it." Liu Huayuan understood the situation, then asked, "What do you intend to do now?" Lin Xuaner opened her mouth, but in the end, she only lowered her head in disappointment. "I do not know." Liu Huayuan sighed, "If you wish, you may stay and serve as a miscellaneous disciple." Upon hearing this, Lin Xuaner looked at Liu Huayuan. She did not agree immediately, her expression filled with internal conflict. A miscellaneous disciple. Her heart was in turmoil. This outcome was vastly different from what she had hoped for. One must understand that among all disciples, the status of a miscellaneous disciple is the lowest, yet she found herself with no other choice. Despite her reluctance, Lin Xuaner was ultimately forced to concede. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. During this time, both of my disciples had achieved a breakthrough to the Tiankong realm, and even that golden dog had successfully broken through to the Spirit Chi realm. A few days later, the annual sect assembly commenced, and I immediately led my two disciples to the martial arts arena on the main peak. The area beneath the arena was packed with disciples, as crowded as a festival and incredibly lively. My appearance alongside my two disciples instantly drew a flurry of shouts, cheers, and curious gazes. "Elder Chen, you have arrived as well?" At this moment, Chi Wuji approached me with a group of his disciples to offer his greetings. Chi Wuji turned his head to look at the disciples behind him. "Hurry and pay your respects to Elder Chen." As he finished speaking, the disciples behind Chi Wuji hastily and respectfully performed a salute toward me. However, among those disciples, the voices of two individuals were filled with clear reluctance. They were none other than Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin. Naturally, I had spotted these two rebellious disciples within the crowd. Sensing my gaze, the two of them immediately let out a cold harumph and turned their heads away. After a few brief pleasantries, I led my two disciples to a secluded spot to sit down. Behind the crowd, Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin also wandered over to the shade of a tree. What a day of misfortune. Everywhere I turn, I run into that damned Chen fellow. Chu Qingmin's face twisted in annoyance. Indeed, with the members of the 7 main peaks and 12 secondary peaks all in attendance, why must Master insist on socializing with Chen Yong? I truly do not know what he is thinking. Lu Ruyan also furrowed her brows. Just then a familiar female voice rang out from behind them. "Senior sisters, is that really you?" Lu Ruan and Chu Qingmin were stunned and quickly turned around, only to see a woman in her 30s standing behind them. "Who are you?" Looking at the woman before her, Lu Ruyan was astonished. "Junior sister, how have you become like this?" Chu Qingmin could not believe her eyes. The Lin Xianer standing before them was gaunt and wretched, looking neither human nor ghost, a truly frightening sight. "Senior sisters, it really is you. Senior sister Chu, I have missed you all so much." She confirmed that it was indeed her two senior sisters. Lin Xuaner could not hold back her tears. Lu Ruyan spoke first. "Junior sister, what has happened to you?" Reflecting on everything she had endured, Lin Xuaner's heart was filled with bitterness. Sobbing, she recounted the events that transpired after she descended the mountain. Upon hearing her tale, Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin were left utterly stunned. Lin Xuaner's tears flowed incessantly. "We were wrong in our past lives, only now do I truly understand. How well did Master treat us?" However, hearing their junior sister claim that he was a virtuous master, Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin immediately furrowed their brows. They felt that Lin Xuaner's mindset had been severely compromised. "Junior sister, how can you say such things? What could that man, Chen Yang, possibly have done that was good?" Seeing their indignation, Lin Xuaner attempted to advise them with patience. "Two senior sisters, it was we who betrayed Master in our past lives. That he harbored resentment toward us and refused to grant us the divine origin elixir was only natural. You should not blame him." Lin Xuaner hoped that her two senior sisters would recognize their own transgressions. Yet, in response to her counsel, Lu Ruyan and Chu Qingmin expressed their immediate displeasure. "Tell us, junior sister, whose side are you on?" They knew that in their past lives all 6 of them had loathed him to the bone, yet here was Lin Xuaner speaking on his behalf. Witnessing the sudden coldness from her senior sisters, Lin Xuaner was momentarily dazed before a realization dawned upon her. They had harbored hatred for their master for so many years. How could they be expected to acknowledge their faults so easily? They were not like her, having been betrayed by their own family and deceived by the Qiyun Immortal Venerable. Thinking of this, Lin Xuaner ceased her attempts to persuade them. "Then, two senior sisters, do you know where Master is currently located?" She had come to the main hall today specifically to find her master and ask for forgiveness. Since becoming a menial disciple, her status was too lowly for her to set foot upon the 7 main peaks under normal circumstances. Only today, during the sect assembly, did she have the opportunity to ascend here as a menial worker. That wretched fellow surnamed Chen is sitting right over there. At this moment, Chu Qingmin's attitude toward Lin Xuaner was no longer as warm as before. She gestured indifferently toward a nearby clearing. "Many thanks, senior sister. I have urgent business." The two of them watched Lin Xuaner's departing figure, their hearts filled with a sense of irritation. Why is our junior sister acting like this? She only went down the mountain once. How could her attitude toward Chen Yang change so drastically upon her return? Lu Ruyan said nothing, merely tracking her silhouette with a cold, piercing gaze. She intended to find out exactly what Lin Xuaner wanted with me. Before long, Lin Xuaner arrived before me. Looking at that familiar face and reflecting on the kindness her master had shown her in her past life, a wave of irrepressible regret surged within her, and she immediately knelt. Master, I apologize. I was currently resting with my eyes closed. Upon opening them to see it was Lin Xuaner, my expression darkened instantly. Yet, regardless of my cold demeanor, Lin Xuaner continued to kowtow and beg for forgiveness. Unwilling to tolerate more, I struck out with a palm strike. Lin Xuaner was sent sprawling across the ground a dozen meters away, but she still refused to give up. Seeing my icy detachment, she crawled back toward me on her knees. Master, your disciple truly knows her wrongs. Did you not hear me tell you to get out? I delivered another slap, and once again Lin Xuaner's body was sent flying. This time she no longer had the strength to crawl toward me, and could only lie prostrate on the ground, weeping in confession. By now, the commotion had drawn the attention of many onlookers nearby. Seeing Lin Xuaner lying on the ground with her face swollen like a pig's head, the surrounding disciples gathered out of curiosity to watch the spectacle. Hey, who is this woman? Why is she calling Elder Chen master? I don't know, but looking at her robes, she must be a servant disciple. Could she be harassing Elder Chen because she wants to apprentice under him? Hearing the grating mockery echoing around her, Lin Xuaner bit her lip, her heart consumed by shame and anguish, yet she remained unwilling to give up, continuing to offer her apologies to me. Just then, a disciple arrived on a flying sword and landed before me. It is unclear what he whispered to me. Immediately afterward, Lin Xuaner watched as I stood up, beckoned my two disciples, and